Slavery was something that was very important to white male landowners of the South to help them with work labor. It was the base of the economy in the South, so slaves to Southerners were very important. Things like cotton fields and tobacco were very prominent crops in the South, which is why Southerners were in heavy support of slavery because of the economic benefits. Right before the Fugitive Slave Law of 1850 was passed, many slaves were able to escape and enter free states. This enraged the South, and it only took a short amount of time for action to be made about this. The primary source I chose was the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. It was a part of the 5 parts of the Compromise of 1850 that was passed on September 18th by Congress. This meant that slaves would be required to return to their owners with no complaints or exceptions. In terms of why to this primary source, Southerners still heavily supported slavery while Northerners were generally against slavery. The South wanted to make a compromise that ultimately kept the Missouri Compromise alive. The Fugitive Slave Act was a decision made to try and please the Southerners, while the other parts of the Compromise of 1850 were attempted to be balanced for Northerners and Southerners, but it would do the exact opposite. The act also meant a bigger role for the federal government, as they were required to try and find these escaped slaves. It was powerful because slaves were not allowed to testify and would only listen to the owner's side of the story to determine if the free slaves should be returned to slavery. The historical significance of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was that it was a key factor to contribute to the start of the Civil War. Even though the compromise was made to try and please everyone, it only made things worse between the North and the South. Many Northerners became angry, and Southerners were very supportive of the act, so the tension between the two grew even bigger. Another significance of the Fugitive Slave Act was that it encouraged abolitionists to try harder to put an end to slavery. The Civil War was an outcome of the Compromise of 1850 because of all the number of slaves in free states and slave states. Many did not know how to deal with this situation of runaway slaves for years, which made things even more difficult. Another important significance of this act was it really motivated slaves to escape, which shows the eagerness and fight these slaves had to fight for the same rights as any average American citizen. More abolitionists would continue to speak up about slavery, including names like Frederick Douglass, who was heavily against slavery and would later become the leader of the abolitionist movement. The book of Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe really helped anti-slavery in the North become more of a common topic from a social standpoint. In conclusion, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 offered many negatives, but from a positive standpoint, it really paved the way for anti-slavery groups and abolitionists to come together to have one big voice and to speak up about racial, social, political, and economical inequalities. Thank you.